Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Ted's Booze Cellar, the premier alcohol review show here on YouTube. I'm here today with another separate set of two different guest hosts who've been on the show before, and this is the second time in the history of Ted's Booze Cellar where guest hosts, like different sets of guest hosts from at least two different episodes, have gotten on together on the same episode. So the last time that happened was with you two and Alice and Owen, and to introduce, as you guys may know them, Imogen,
hi,
Big Owen and Big Phil.
Hello.
Hello. Now, Phil kindly has supplied today's drink of subject, and it's the one that Imogen was a little bit tepid about, to say the least, because obviously being French, Imogen likes her wine, and Phil's, you're Anglo-Scottish, but you did grow up in Berlin.
Yeah.
And
I've got she wants to come in.
Sorry, we have to let the cat
Do you mind
in.
letting the cat in? Thank you.
There you go. Her girl.
For those of you who don't know, we have a cat called Butler.
She's very loud and quite eccentric.
Yeah.
But so Phil, you're Anglo-Scottish, but you did grow up in Berlin, so you're more used to sort of Germanic style food and drink.
Yeah, definitely.
So why don't you, because you've travelled all the way over from Southampton, why don't you take the pleasure of introducing today's drink?
Well, thank you, Ted. This here is Sekt, which is a type of German sparkling wine. It comes in several different colours, sort of white, rosé and red, like all wines do, but it is quite strongly sparkling. Not as strong as perhaps Federweiss, which is so strong famously the bottles can't be closed. So they're always stacked up very carefully in the shops. This is a bit less hardcore than that, but tasty nonetheless. It's basically, it's very close to champagne, and indeed, if you get a red one, which I don't know whether this is or not, but based on the fact that it's called Rubin, which is a German word for ruby, I'm going to assume it is. It's the closest thing to a red champagne you would ever get. They tend to be quite dry, these alcohols. And but they have a very nice and smooth aftertaste. Now, shall I open it?
Yeah.
Okay, I shall open it outside because it may have been shaken a bit, and it's one of those things that you want to be careful.
Honestly, Imogen's reaction to that was like telling me, someone who's Anglo-Polish, that you pasteurised vodka.
For context, I'm French and I also grew up on a vineyard, so I'm quite picky about wine. But I did live in Germany for 2 years, so I have some experience with the Germans' joy of, let's say, love of sparkling things.
I am, and being Anglo-Polish, I grew up with like a deep love of like root vegetables and like,
Well, that was anticlimactic.
and like hard spirits. All right, fucking film critic.
Whoa, man! I thought it was going to like fly into the sky.
Well, it might have done if it had been a bit more shaken up, but as I say, this isn't the strongest sparkling German wine that you can get. And nor is it the sweetest.
So, first of all, and just for reference, by the way, this is 12% alcohol volume. So, what do we think of the design of the bottle and the labelling? Because it's very archetypally, like classically Central European, but what do you think?
I quite like it personally. It knows what it is. It's a classic Germanic wine, which I don't know. It's just got a very standard look to it. Like if you gave this to me, and even if I couldn't really see the writing, I'd probably be like, well, it doesn't look French. It looks more kind of central.
Yeah, it's got a very sort of Germanic style cursive script on it.
Yeah.
That's how I learnt to write in primary school, basically.
Wow, that's mad.
My primary school German teacher was sort of hardcore old-fashioned, lived through the bombings during the war and stuff, and she made sure that from the age of about 7 we were learning proper calligraphy with pens and inkwells and stuff.
Holy shit.
Yeah, to get our penmanship up to snuff.
I used to live in Dresden, in Meissen, just outside of Dresden, so very,
East Germany, yes.
Very East
Yes.
Germany, and they were so strict. So strict.
So how do you pronounce this? Is it
Rotkäppchen, that's right, yeah, with the umlaut. That's basically...
Say it again now, sorry?
Rotkäppchen.
Rotkäppchen,
yeah. Basically, that's also the name of Little Red Riding Hood in German folklore. I'm not sure if that's a deliberate allusion, but yeah, basically. Yeah,
Nice.
because as you can see, it's got the sort of red bit at the top, and so that's where it gets its name,
Yeah.
because it's capped with red.
I will make one note on the bottle, just not a positive or a negative. You're saying obviously the script is very Germanic and it's very sort of Central European looking bottle.
Yeah.
I will say it does look quite similar to a lot of French champagne bottles I've seen,
Okay.
though, with that sort of cursive script as well, because it's like I think French wine is already so renowned. You're like, it's French wine, it will be good. But then sort of like the champagne, they have to elevate it. So you tend to get lots of especially that gold detailing.
Yes.
This is very common in a lot of champagne bottles. So maybe it's a sparkling thing. They like gold.
Possibly.
Yeah.
I think for the rating of the bottle, I like sort of classically simple European stuff like this, so I'll actually go for a 10 out of 10.
Same. It makes me feel like a fancy little bitch.
I don't know. I think I'd give it a 9. I feel like they could have. I don't know. I feel like the writing's slightly underwhelming.
I just like the look of it because it just makes me think I'm about to sit down at a cafe in the Ruhr and have some like chicken currywurst and stuff like that, and just it gives me that impression of seeing central Germany behind me. It's really nice.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not. It's a 9. It's still. I still think it's a really nice looking bottle. It's very handsome.
What about you?
Now, obviously, I'm biased. I would say it knows what it is, because this is not quite top of the range. This is sort of upmarket, but not ludicrously expensive.
Yeah, so Waitrose home brand.
No, it's more. It's more than that. It's it's sort of like Lambrusco or something.
Oh, fair enough.
It's a sort of better Italian wine level of quality, I would say. And I also really like the fact that it's got the date of the sort of founding of the brewery on it.
Yeah, I love
which
that.
I'm always a sucker for. I like a
Brewery
company
or-
that's proud of its heritage.
Winery or brewery?
Also the cat's
Probably winery, yeah. You probably call it winery. Though
Thank you.
in German they do just call it
A small
sort
glass.
of Brauerei, so I think. So
No,
I
I'm
don't-
going to
yeah.
put yours in the gin glass.
I think linguistically, at least, there's no distinction in Germany between brewing beer and making any other alcohol. Thanks.
Also, you can't see on camera, but the cat is sat literally just next
Yeah.
to
The German word for
joining
vineyard
in.
is Weinberg. Basically means wine or vine mountain. Or hill. Yeah.
Ah.
Okay,
When I
so
was in German wine country, it was incredibly hilly.
Yeah.
first,
I accidentally just tried it. I'm very sorry. It was instinctual.
trust the French person.
I drank water before I could acknowledge it in my mouth.
Okay, right.
Okay. Alright.
Well, that's deeply unprofessional, and it's not the kind of behaviour we want on this show, madam.
I'm very tired, and I just
No, it's fine.
I thought I was holding my water bottle, and then I just
It's
drank.
fine. It's fine. I
and then I
understand.
realised.
I'm not actually having a go at you.
This looks gorgeous. I love
It
it.
looks
Yeah.
pretty.
As I say, this is the closest to a red champagne you'll ever get.
Okay, so let's give it a quick sniff to see what our first impressions are like. So.
I mean, it smells like red wine.
Yeah, can't fault
Yeah,
it.
genuinely. It just smells like an equally nice, albeit slightly weaker version of Bordeaux. Like it,
Like maybe
Yeah.
It's really
maybe
good.
Merlot.
I
Kind of.
possibly.
Okay.
I was thinking of more just standard Bordeaux, really. To be honest.
I don't know.
It's
about
not quite
wines.
as well. Like you said, it's weaker because Bordeaux is very heavy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
actually,
There's like maybe more of a Merlot, which is kind of heavy. Not
No,
as heavy as a
no. You know what? Yeah, I was going to say it smells like a weaker Bordeaux, but with like the after smell of a Merlot.
It reminds me a lot of Hungarian wines, which is weird because it's sort of from almost the opposite side of Germany. It's not Alsace and Lorraine, but it's sort of down that way that it comes
So,
from.
like, where
Sort
exactly?
of Baden-Württemberg, that kind of thing.
Right.
Gothenburg. Oh.
So just a bit further north of Saxony, then.
Saxony's more in the east, isn't it?
Yeah, Saxony's in the east.
I thought it was in the
Yeah.
southeast.
No. Well, there's Lower Saxony, which etymologically is completely unaffiliated with actual Saxony. Niedersachsen in Germany, it's called. That is the sort of massive state near the Rhineland.
Oh, that's it.
Both of which are also known for their wine production,
That's fair enough.
thanks to all the rivers and hills. Yeah.
So I'll give this nose. There's just a little bit of extra pizzazz missing, but it's still a really nice nose. And unlike some reds, it doesn't like cloy too much in the nostrils, and it doesn't overwhelm the senses. Like I like the nose of Bordeaux, but I can imagine some people might not like the nose of it.
Yeah.
But this kind of avoids that by being just a bit mild. So I think I'll give the nose probably like an 8.5.
Also, Bordeaux's are risky because
Yeah.
they can be.
That-
They're
but-
so strong that they have to be done really well, otherwise they're really unpleasant.
Yeah, that's the thing with Bordeaux is it's such a wide margin of quality, but like there's very little in between. You're either pretty good or pretty like ropey.
This is wine tips with Imogen. If you're ever having to bring a bottle of wine to, say, a dinner party or something, and you just don't know your wines and you don't want to get a bad one, a nice, easy solution is a Côte du Rhône. It's never. It might not be
Yeah,
the greatest.
solid
It
choice.
will never be a bad one. That was my mother's advice. If you aren't sure what to bring a Côte du Rhône. It will always go down at least fine.
My favourite home brand wine from any British supermarket is Waitrose home brand Côte du Rhône. It's excellent.
If you get a good Côte du Rhône as well, it's really nice. And if you get a bad Côte du Rhône, it's not even bad. It's just fine.
So, what are we rating for the nose?
I think it's 7.
I'd say 8.5. What do you think?
Okay.
I would probably just say an 8.
That's fair.
Yeah.
What do you think, Owen?
Like 7 3/4.
Okay.
That's fair enough.
Yeah, I'm
Right.
alright with that.
Owen,
So,
do you mind
7,
grabbing the
7,
water if that's all right?
3/4.
Water, yeah.
Yeah, just for the quick palate cleanser.
Well, luckily I've just done a palate cleanser.
Yeah, because you drank first before you even smelled the drink. Cheers.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Thanks awfully.
you're having the palate cleanser in Owen's Corona glass that I got him for Christmas.
And he's drinking out of my Villa Moretti glass.
Oh, that's good stuff.
Okay, so before we see what this sucker tastes like, palate cleanser. Oh, nice one. And as we always mean to go on, let's get on to the most important part of the video and see what this sucker actually tastes like. So, bottoms up and have a good weekend.
Santé.
This is rare for me because I generally have the white version of this, so I don't quite know how to respond to this.
It doesn't taste like how I thought it would at all.
The bubbles make it kind of sludge-like. It's like heavy. It's really heavy.
See, I
It is
feel
heavy,
like it's. I feel like the texture of it is slightly waterier than I expected. I just tried
Yeah.
to do the usual wine tasting thing when you like roll it on your tongue,
What
and it kind of just fell apart. It doesn't have the same.
the texture I'm getting is actually of like a more watery. It's like of a more watery version of those Chinese like jelly juice drinks in a can.
It's got like...
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I got a tiny spot on your carpet.
That's fine. Yeah, no, it feels like it's got millions of tiny pebbles in it.
Yeah, it's really strange. It's like this big like glob of like flavour and juiciness, and this sort of like watery outline to the texture that's very unexpected. And then, like you said, there's that fizziness on the outside that sort of like kind of keeps it from being too unbalanced or too bad. Because I feel like the fizziness is the best part of the texture, personally. But
It's okay, it's my water. I'll just pour it out.
So, like, there's a bunch of aspects to the texture that I think shouldn't realistically work together, but the fizziness actually kind of brings it together for me. The flavour, actually,
It's just very unique.
the flavour is almost kind of like a sweeter, a more Auburn and slightly tartar version of Kriek, like Belgian cherry beer. It feels like a cross between that, fizzy like champagne, and like a red wine.
It's like kind of... It's like a sludgy spirit.
Yeah, it's not very well filtered. It's got quite a sort of strong texture and aftertaste, and yeah, to me, it's almost indistinguishable in terms of both taste and texture from the white variant of this wine.
Really?
So, yes, I will say that it's not quite as strong a flavour as the sort of white.
Yeah, and the thing is, while I like the texture, I feel like that's the biggest aspect that could potentially turn someone off this particular one.
I don't know, I'm not a big fan of the flavour, I've got to be honest.
I don't think the flavour is amazing. I think the last two sects you got me were a bit better. The rosé one was really good.
Yeah.
I had that for Christmas.
I can see this being better with a rosé.
I got you a rosé and a white, didn't I?
I had the white myself with fish, and then I had the red with my family over some steak for Christmas one dinner. So that was pretty good. But yeah, it is. I think the texture's better than the flavour. But as for the drink overall, I'm going to say probably like a 5.
Okay. I would probably go with a 6 or something, maybe.
Yeah.
For the flavour and stuff overall.
I think that's realistically the highest I could go for it without being too mean, because obviously you did bring this over.
Fair enough.
It's just, yeah, I feel like I prefer white sect, really.
That's fair. I mean, this is sort of the kind of thing that you might drink on sort of a dinner party or a formal occasion. It's not something that you just sort of drink because you want a glass of wine, and it's not something you drink to get drunk. It is sort of a traditional drink for around New Year and for celebrations and stuff.
Yeah,
and you don't quite want to break out the champagne or anything, but you want more than sort of just your Italian wine from the supermarket.
Yeah, and when you've like had some traditionally heavy German food and you just want to break it down a little bit. What about you?
As a wine, not very highly, but as a drink, as its own thing, it's quite good actually. Like if you don't think about it as wine, it's very drinkable. The taste is interesting. The texture's kind of nice.
So what would you say is your numerical rating overall? Disregard, no, not just the fact that it's wine, but as an overall.
So including the idea that it's a wine.
Well, okay, both then. Right.
Both, okay. As a wine, pretty low, probably like 5. But as a drink, as its own kind of thing, more like a 7.5. I kind of like it. I could probably drink a whole bottle of that, yeah.
Your partner seems to be a touch upset.
Yeah, I'd say so.
I'm not upset, I'm just disagreeing mentally. Can I be mean? I don't want to be
No, go for it. This is a bit of an experience for me as well, because I don't tend to drink Sekt that much, and when I do, it's almost always the white.
Yeah, and don't worry.
I think it is mostly the red part that doesn't work with it for me.
That's fair, because this is something that is a bit strange. The idea of something approaching a red champagne.
Yeah, I've had sparkling whites. I'm sure I've had sparkling rosés, and they've been okay.
So what are your thoughts on this?
This, I think I'm going to have to give it a 3, just because I feel like I'm getting moments there's moments where it feels like a red wine, and then there's this kind of sweet, not wine sweet, like almost like an artificial sweet, which I think comes from the fizzy.
Yeah.
I'm also not personally a fan of fizzy drinks, like I don't drink Coke or lemonade or anything like that, so that might affect it. And I think it is just the red wine flavours work well as a non-fizzy, whereas I can see lighter, crisper. It's not crisp enough, it's too heavy, so it's heavy and fizzy, and it's just...
Yeah, I've thought of the perfect way to describe this. If ever you're in Germany, obviously they do like to drink their fizzy stuff, and one of the things they do like is to mix sparkling water with thick fruit juices like apple and cherry. So what I would say is that this is kind of like sort of cherry charla, the sparkling mixed with sparkling water. So cherry juice, sparkling water, maybe spiked with kind of an alcohol of some kind, like a sort of wine punch or something like that.
Maybe that's why it's so popular in Germany, is because you have the fruit juice as a child, and then this is like the adult version of that, like how they used to just give us grape juice when we were little kiddies, and then when we hit about 9 or 10 we started having wine.
That's an interesting way of looking at it, because Germany does actually have a serious alcopop problem with young people. That people drink these high alcoholic but very sweet drinks, and they don't realise how drunk they're getting. Add to that the fact that Berlin is kind of Europe's ecstasy capital. You get a fair few problems.
Yeah, I think when alcopop started becoming popular in the UK in the mid to late 2000s, we did have a bit of a problem like that as well for about 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
WKD was everywhere.
Well, that's why I feel like it's healthy to we
Is
could drink.
WKD alcoholic?
Yeah.
I didn't even know.
It's
Okay.
the alcohol.
Yeah, no. You would see a lot of delinquent young gangs around in the mid to late 2000s that drank just like loads. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say we were allowed to drink beer, cider, and wine from 16, and what that meant was we had a much healthier relationship with alcohol. So we could go to bars and have drinks with our friends at 16. So I didn't go to we wouldn't really do house parties as much. You'd go to a bar with your mates. And instead of just being like sometimes you were just trying to get shit-faced because it was one of those nights, but you weren't regularly trying to get shit-faced. You were actually more just enjoying alcohol with your friends.
Yeah, no, indeed. Germany, you're allowed to buy beer and cider from the age of 16, and you're allowed to buy everything else from the age of 18. But it's common for German children, like most continental European children, to be introduced to alcohol quite early. Like, my first drink was actually, at New Year, a glass of white Sekt when I was about 12 or something.
As I say, we started drinking wine at like 9 or 10.
Yeah,
Not like a massive glass.
No,
You get like a small glass,
you
and
get
then by
a bit
13...
to fit in with the grown-ups.
Yeah,
Yeah.
by 13 I had like a relatively full glass.
Yeah.
It's very common with some family I have in Israel as well, actually. I think my first alcoholic drink was a family member bought me one at like a concert, I think it was, but it was under like supervision and very careful watch. And I think it was like a pint of like blackcurrant and cider. I don't know. I got slowly introduced to it, but like I guess a later stage, I suppose. But
I think when I was growing up, my family just kind of beer is just sort of a thing.
yeah,
People drink beer and tea at the same time. So
Yeah, they really do.
yeah,
So-
so people would just kind of give younger people beer.
Whereas I drank wine and coffee at the same time.
So I think there's a pretty good range of thoughts on like the history of this drink and also numerical ratings. We've got a range from anywhere from 7.5 down to 3, and about I'd say the mean average is probably about 5, sort of 5.5 maybe. But yeah, I think that's a good range of thoughts and opinions. So thanks to everyone for coming on. If you guys at home like this video, leave a like, share and subscribe. If you have any suggestions for future episodes of Ted's Booze Cellar, let me know in the comments section down below. And if you want to check out any of my other social medias online, I'll leave those in the video description down below as well. And what I was thinking as well, I know you don't upload on there a lot, but if I remember to later on after I've recovered from the eventual hangover, I will put your book review channel in the video description as well as you guys' live stream.
Nice.
So Phil used to may one do in the future, but he has a book review channel, and Imogen and Owen have a chilled out gaming Twitch stream. So I'll try and put both
And
of
we've got a YouTube now.
Yeah.
There's only one video on it. But
And the audio is terrible. So.
and I'll try and put those in the video description when I remember to after probably tomorrow. But if you guys like that sort of thing, go for it. And until next time, have fun, stay safe with whatever you're doing. Don't do anything we wouldn't do. Drink responsibly, know your limits, and we'll see you guys next time at the bar on Ted's Booze Cellar.